I've survived 2 bear markets in crypto, and trust me, you never forget your first crash. The screen turns red, your portfolio's down 60%, and you start thinking, was this all a scam? But here's the truth. Crashes aren't the end of the story. They're just a brutal part of the game. So today I want to give you the exact playbook I've learned to survive crypto crashes. What to do in the first hour, how to protect your portfolio, stay calm, and even turn a crash into an opportunity. Now, before we start, none of this is financial advice. This is just my perspective after years of being in this wild market. If you find value in this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notification, because I make videos like this every week to help you navigate crypto with confidence. Let's dive in. Not every red day is a crash. A true crypto crash usually means prices falling 15 to 20% or more across the whole market within hours or days. It's when volatility spikes, liquidations explode, and panic spreads everywhere. On X, in Telegram, in your group chats, you'll see people Googling "bull market is dead" and influencers suddenly turning into doomsday prophets. But here's the key. Every crash has its type. There are flash crashes that recover in hours, corrections that last weeks, and full-blown bear markets that drag on for a year or more. The goal isn't to predict which one you're in. It's to survive long enough to make it to the other side. So when the next crash hits, here's your 60-minute playbook, what I personally follow every time. First, stop. Don't make any emotional decisions. Panic selling is how people lock in losses forever. Then, verify. Check if the crash is market-wide or isolated. Look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and total market cap. If everything's down together, it's usually a macro event, not your specific coin imploding. Next, check. Make sure your centralized exchange is even working. Go to status pages for Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, see if there are outages. Then, secure. Double check your accounts. Enable 2FA. Make sure there's no suspicious activity. Crashes are when scammers come out in full force. And finally, wait 24 hours. No trades, no panic, just breathe. Most emotional decisions happen in that first 24-hour window, and they're almost always the wrong ones. By the next day, you'll be calmer and can start looking at the bigger picture. Crashes don't come from one single cause. They're usually a chain reaction. Maybe it starts with a regulatory headline like China banning mining back in 2021, or a protocol failure like Terra Luna losing its peg in 2022. Sometimes it's macro. Interest rate hikes, inflation, or most recently, Trump's tariffs. Every bull run ends with people taking on too much risk. When prices fall, leveraged traders get liquidated, and that cascade triggers more selling. That's why you'll see billions in liquidations within hours. The key is to understand that this is how markets reset. The leverage gets flushed out. Weak hands exit, and the system rebuilds stronger. Let's look back for a second, because history is the best teacher here. In 2018, Bitcoin fell 84% from its peak. Ethereum dropped 94%. The ICO bubble exploded and thousands of tokens disappeared overnight. But Bitcoin and Ethereum survived because they had real utility and adoption. Lesson number 1. Hype is temporary. Utility survives. Then came March 2020, the COVID crash. Bitcoin dropped from 9,000 to 3,800 in just 2 days. Everyone thought it was over. But within 2 months, BTC was back above 8,000, and a year later it broke all-time highs. Lesson 2. Macro panics can reverse fast. If your assets have strong fundamentals, patience often beats panic. Then 2022 happened. The worst crash I've ever seen until this most recent one in October. Terra collapsed. Celsius went bankrupt, and FTX, one of the biggest exchanges, turned out to be a house of cards. That year reminded everyone of one thing: not your keys, not your coins. Centralized platforms can fail, even the big ones. Lesson 3. Always control your own custody. Every crash feels different, but the core lessons repeat. Leverage breaks first. Greed gets punished, and long-term holders who stay rational always come out ahead. Now, let's talk about the hardest part: your mindset. Because crashes aren't just financial, they're psychological. When you see your portfolio bleeding, your brain literally switches into fight or flight mode. You'll feel fear, confusion, maybe even shame. And that's where most people make their biggest mistakes. So here's what I do. I limit noise. I stop scrolling X. I mute Telegram groups. And I focus on data instead of emotions. Because if you're consuming panic 24/7, you'll act on it. Then I remind myself of my thesis. If I bought a project for the long term and nothing fundamentally changed, I don't sell just because the chart looks ugly. As long as the technology, the community, and the roadmap are intact, price is just temporary chaos. And when the fear gets extreme, I look at the fear and greed index. Historically, when everyone's terrified, that's near the bottom. When everyone's euphoric, that's when I start trimming. It's counterintuitive, but that's how smart money thinks. If I still feel overwhelmed, I use a simple 24-hour rule. No trades today. Half of surviving a crash is learning not to react instantly. Alright, so now let's talk about practical defense. The biggest mistake beginners make is going all in. Even institutions cap their exposure. For most people, crypto should be a small part of their portfolio, maybe 5 to 10%, and diversified. Inside that crypto slice, I split it like this. Around 30 to 40% always stays in the USDT. That's my safety net and my dip buying fund. It's basically my cash buffer. When markets crash, that's the capital I use to scoop up solid projects at huge discounts instead of panic selling. Then 40 to 50% goes into my high conviction holdings, the big players like Bitcoin and Solana. These are the assets I believe will still be standing strong 5 years from now, no matter how many crashes come and go. And finally, whatever's left goes into smaller speculative plays, projects I like but only with money I'm fully prepared to lose. And here's another habit. Take profits in bull markets. Most people don't. I also have problems not selling too early. But if you gradually move some profits into stablecoins when things look euphoric, you'll be sitting on cash when the market dumps. Not panic. Also, never use high leverage. I've seen traders lose everything in minutes because a 10% candle wiped them out. No trade is worth losing sleep or your entire account. Now, here's how I stay informed without losing my mind. I check Glassnode or CryptoQuant or CoinAnk for on-chain data. They show if the big holders are buying or selling and how much Bitcoin is sitting on exchanges. If exchange reserves are dropping, that's usually bullish. People are moving to self-custody. If they're rising fast, it might mean panic selling is starting. Then I keep an eye on the fear and greed index and Coinglass for liquidation data. When billions get liquidated in a day, that's usually the tail end of the crash. For news, I stick to CoinDesk and Cointelegraph and of course, Captain Altcoin. Real journalism, not clickbait thumbnails saying Bitcoin to zero. And I keep my exchange status pages bookmarked. If Binance or Coinbase go down, I want to know it's not just my Wi-Fi. Now, how do you know when the worst is over? Recovery usually starts quietly. You'll see long-term holders accumulating again. Exchange outflows start rising. Volume on green days increases. And on charts, higher lows start forming, meaning buyers are defending new levels. The macro side matters too. Things like central banks pausing rate hikes or institutional inflows picking up again. When those fundamentals line up with on-chain signs, that's when I start scaling back in, slowly, patiently. The goal is to be positioned for the next cycle. Crashes bring out the worst people. Fake recovery services, phishing emails, Telegram DMs pretending to be support, they all explode when panic sets in. So here's the rule. No one can recover your lost tokens. No legitimate platform will ask for your seed phrase, and you should never click links or sign contracts you don't fully understand. If something feels urgent or secretive, it's probably a scam. Better to miss an opportunity than lose everything. Every crash is a lesson. Once things calm down, I do a quick postmortem. What went wrong? Was I over-leveraged? Too emotional? Overexposed to one coin? Then I adjust before the next cycle starts. I rebuild my watch list. rebalance my portfolio, and make sure my long-term thesis still makes sense. I also DCA slowly into strong projects while prices are still low, because that's what every successful long-term investor does. The truth is, the next bull market is born during the bear. Those who prepare quietly now will thank themselves later. Crashes will keep happening. They're scary, unpredictable, and painful, but they're also necessary. They wipe out speculation, reset the system, and give real builders space to work. I've seen people panic sell the bottom and never come back. I've also seen people stay calm, accumulate, and 10x their portfolios in the next cycle. So remember, protect your capital, manage your emotions, and never stop learning. Don't try to predict the next crash. Just prepare for it. If you stay structured, informed, and patient, every crash becomes a stepping stone instead of a disaster. Now, if you found this helpful, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment sharing what you've learned from past crashes. Because the next time the market goes red, you won't panic. You'll have a plan.